grandmother left us equal stock portfolios. My brother blew his on a car. Now he's demanding half of my fortune and slashing my tires. When my brother was 16 and I was 4, our grandmother set aside a share portfolio for each of us. Once we were old enough, they were transferred into our own accounts. 4 years after receiving his, my brother dipped heavily into his and bought himself a new Honda. I knew about my portfolio much earlier than he did, so I had years to watch it grow before I got control of it. By the time it was officially mine, it was worth an incredible amount, thanks largely to a big portion being invested in Apple. I've always been torn about touching it because Dad drilled into me that I should let it grow until I'm in my 40s. My brother and I don't talk much. He's made some questionable choices over the years, and we didn't grow up together, so most of what I hear about his life comes from Dad. Recently, his new girlfriend, who works in law, sent me a formal letter from the two of them. They claim that the investments our grandmother made were meant to be shared equally, not just for me. My brother's portfolio was only about $15,000 when he cashed it out, and now they're demanding half of the value of mine today. His girlfriend has even warned me that if I don't give them access, legal fees and fines could eat up everything, leaving me with nothing. Here's the thing. The dividends from this portfolio support a huge part of my life. They've saved me in tough times and given me the freedom to live in 4 different states, with plans to keep moving and exploring before I settle down, if I ever do. Losing half of it would set me back years, and honestly, I've come to rely on the stability it provides. As far as I know, there's no paperwork or will, just my grandmother's word. She set up my brother's accounts when he turned 19 and gave them to Dad at the same time she transferred mine. 6 years ago, Dad handed everything over to me. For my share, I have all the logins, the trading accounts and bank accounts are in my name, and the shares are all solely under my name too. Should I get my own lawyer? And if so, what kind of lawyer should I look for? I've used the same accountant for years, but this feels more like a legal issue than an accounting one. How likely is it that they could win and leave me with nothing? Update 1 month later, mostly good news. With my dad's help, I got my own lawyer and finally got everything straightened out. I'd misunderstood the timeline of my shares, but the outcome is still the same. What my brother and I inherited from our grandmother actually came from my grandfather's portfolio. He was the one who managed the money. After he passed, my grandmother looked after everything. She personally set up accounts for my brother and gave him control of his shares. I thought she had done the same for me before she passed, but instead, my shares were mentioned in her will. She left everything she owned to my dad with instructions that $15,000 worth of shares, the same amount my brother received, would be set aside for me once I was old enough to manage them responsibly. There was no trust. She simply trusted my dad to handle it. And he did. 6 years ago, he set up accounts for me, gave me control, and even added some of his own shares to give me a head start. Last year, my dad admitted he had a confrontation with my brother. My brother had been asking him for financial help repeatedly, and my dad had finally reached his limit. During the argument, my dad used me as an example of how my brother should have been managing his finances, which is how my brother discovered I still had my shares, and that they had grown significantly. My lawyer has assured me that I'm in the clear legally. It won't even go to court, as it turns out my brother's girlfriend, who had been involved in sending me a threatening legal letter, isn't a lawyer at all. She was a legal secretary, and her firm contacted my lawyer to apologize, confirming she had been terminated immediately. Apparently, the letter she sent me had been falsified to make it look like she held a higher position, and even some of the contact information was changed. A week after she was fired, my brother came to me, pleading for money. It turns out his girlfriend is in serious debt, and she tried to scam me for a large amount of cash, well into 5 figures. At first, I felt awful saying no to him, but then the next morning, I woke up to find all my tires had been slashed. At that point, I was done. I don't feel bad anymore.